Hi, I'm Rob, your last minute astronomer, bringing astronomy to normies and nerds with little time to spare. And by little time to spare, I mean we are less than 2 months away from the total solar eclipse of 2024. And that's what this episode is dedicated to, as seen from Lancaster County and similar locations. I'm going to cover the timing, what you're going to see, and some methods of viewing it. Now, I'm talking to the people who aren't able to or aren't planning on going to see totality. Now, totality is when the moon completely covers up the sun, and this only happens on the small strip of land where the moon's shadow actually lands. And the closer to the middle of the strip, the longer your eclipse or longer your totality is. Also, the closer to Mexico you are, it's going to be longer. In fact, up to 4 minutes and 25 seconds over there. And let's see, 3 minutes and 20 seconds in Maine and 3 minutes up in Newfoundland. But so if you're going to totality, no need to keep listening. But if you're in Lancaster County, this video is for you. If you're elsewhere in the country, you can skip ahead to the how do I watch this part. As all the common, clever, and complicated methods do still apply to you as well. Okay? So let's get started with what will physically happen. So over a few hours, the moon is going to pass in front of the sun. And then at maximum eclipse, it's going to block 91% of the sun's surface. The sky is going to dim a tiny bit, and you might even be able to see Venus during the eclipse and Jupiter as well. All you got to do, in fact, you can see it here. This is right near mid-eclipse. Venus will be down and to the right. Jupiter is going to be up and to the left. Now, Venus being 15 degrees, that is about, if you rock on, that at arm's length is about 15 degrees. So if you put the eclipse at your pointer, Venus should be by your pinky. Jupiter is about twice that distance. So what you do is you have the Hawaiian hang loose, whatever, and you put that out. That's actually 25 degrees. So it's about that plus a little bit. Okay? So that's going to help you find Venus and Jupiter. What will also happen is the sky will actually dim a bit. I'm not totally sure how much, but it's going to be something. Okay. And the temperature should decrease by a degree or two. In the eclipse, it's about 10 degrees. And some animals might actually act differently, right? Because it's starting to feel like nighttime. And these are similar to the effects in totality, but much less intense because you can still see about 8% of the sun's surface. So when does this all really occur? Well, 2:06 p.m. is when you're going to start, right about when you're going to start seeing the moon start eating up the sun, right? And as I fast forward from 2:06, this moon is going to keep moving closer and closer into the center of the sun, but not quite the center, because right at 3:22 is when you get maximum eclipse for here in Lancaster County. Now, 91.6% of the sun is going to be covered up. But that's still not enough to get a total eclipse, okay, to get the corona and all that totality stuff. But what will happen is the sky will darken. Probably something like this in the simulation, okay? And I would encourage you, actually, because I'm really curious about this, and you can write me afterwards or comment later. But like, how much did it darken? Because I remember during the total eclipse in South Carolina in 2017, like it was dusk when it was a total eclipse. So I'm wondering how dark it gets here during a partial eclipse, which is what we essentially have. So go ahead and look around at places before maximum eclipse, like before it starts, and then right at 3:22. And I'm curious to see what kind of changes take place, right? Also, the temperature will probably drop by a degree or two, and some animals might behave differently, okay? In fact, if you have a thermometer, it's not too hard to actually take that data as you're going through. Now this, at 3:22, this is when you do want to zoom out a bit and take a look and find Venus and Jupiter. Like I said before, Venus is down and to the right by about this much, and Jupiter is up and to the left by about this much. Okay. And then after that, what's going to happen? Let me zoom back in. Okay. See, since the moon passes just at an angle from then on out, from 322 to 434, it's going to move away from the sun, and then the eclipse is over at about 4:34 p.m. Sun's back, moon's past, it's all over. But how do you watch this, right? Lots of good ways to watch this, and I'm going to break them down because some of them are simple, some of them are complicated, some of them are very clever. So I'm going to break them down into the categories of common, clever, and complicated. There are definitely some good opportunities for young people to learn a bit about the eclipse just by making some of these devices and kind of practicing with them as well. Now, first of all, obligatory legal disclaimer, okay? Do not look at the sun without legitimate eye protection, okay? You got to have something that's ISO certified and something like that, because otherwise you could damage your eyes. Now, some of you might be saying, I've looked at the sun before and it actually didn't damage my vision. You are probably right. And it probably doesn't hurt too much. However, when you're watching an eclipse, there's two things. Number one, you're going to lose track of time when you're looking at it because you're going to want to look a little deeper, right? If you've looked at the sun in the past, oh, it's up there, boom, that's all you needed. But here you're going to want to watch for a couple seconds at a time at least, okay? So that's going to damage you more. You're going to get lost in the time, and you're going to be looking at it time after time after time. So you will hurt your vision if you do that. Yeah. Also, just to be honest, it's just not fun to watch an eclipse with your naked eye. It really isn't. Like, just get something. And I'm going to start right there with the most common and most easy way to observe the eclipse. Okay. The most common way is the solar eclipse glasses. Now, these are the easiest and cheapest ways for most people to watch the eclipse. Okay, they are not sunglasses though. Okay, don't be walking around with these because you cannot see anything through them. Nothing at all except the sun. Maybe a super bright light. That's about it. Okay, now there are plenty of places selling these, but make sure you order them. In fact, if you're watching this, order them now because places are going to run out and you're going to be stuck without them. Even if you rush order, you might not get them the day of the eclipse, right? It's not going to be fun waiting around and hoping that you get them in time, or you get them and you find out that they're damaged and you can't use them. So make sure you buy these well ahead of time and make sure you get the ISO certified ones. In fact, it'll say something like conforms to and meets the transmission requirements of ISO 12312-2. It's on there. Now, can people fake this stuff? Yes. And that's why, A, look for the certification. You can fake that too. But buy them from a legitimate place, like a science museum, a planetarium, or some sort of educational science store. Buy them there. Don't just find the random ones on Amazon, because they may not be the right thing. Okay? Also, the only drawback here with these is that you don't see any magnification, right? What you are seeing here is just the sun, but it will show you how small the sun really is in the sky from our perspective. But these are the cheapest, easiest ways to do it. I'd go with these if you're only looking to spend like less than $10, okay? Then we also have welding glass. Now, some people have these lying around. They can be quite convenient in that respect, but I don't find them nearly as comfortable to use as eclipse glasses. The number 14 is the recommended shade, but it is kind of a green sun. Okay, that's cool, but it may not be quite bright enough. Now, the number 12 is sometimes suggested, but that can be too bright. So in my opinion, spend a couple bucks, get the glasses. If you don't like the glasses, they do also sell them like this as well. It's kind of like a welding glass, and you can just hold that up to your eye. That's good too. These, nice and easy, made of paper, super good. Okay, so those are the common ways to observe it. Let's move on to the clever ways to observe it. Now, if you are outside during the eclipse and you're walking by a tree, one of the cool things is you can see on the ground, you can see the sun is going to go past through those little pinholes, essentially, in between the leaves. And on the ground, you will actually see little projections of the eclipse, little crescent suns on the ground. And that could just be through trees that are already there. One of the cool ways to do this, too, is just grab a piece of cardboard or tinfoil. And I like cardboard because it doesn't rip as easily. And just poke holes in the cardboard in whatever shape or whatever you want to see. I did this with my son's name, and I had it up. I held it up, had a piece of paper on the ground, and I projected the pinholes. I projected the suns, the crescent suns, essentially, of the eclipse onto the white piece of paper, and you could see my son's name in eclipses. Really cool. Really a neat gift if you want to make something for somebody as well. And another way to do that, the clever way, is to cut a hole in a cereal box, and then you cover that hole. You actually do it on both sides, and you cover one hole with tin foil or aluminum foil. Do a little pinhole in there, but then leave this side open. And then what you do is you have the sun behind you. Sun comes in through the hole, hits the bottom, and you can look through and you can see a projection of that right on the cereal box there. That's a fun thing to make with the kids if you need an art or a craft at some time. But if you're last minute, go ahead and grab a colander and use that as a way to project a whole colander's worth of pinhole projections on the ground. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the more complicated, right? Some of us want to see the sun a little bit closer. And so what you want to do in that case is you want a pair of binoculars, but not regular binoculars because that will burn holes into your face. What you want is Eclipse binoculars. You can get them from plenty of telescope sites and stuff like that. But what you want to do in order to observe this is you want to have the Eclipse glasses or binoculars, and you want to fit them, okay? But then once they're fitted, you want to get a pizza box and cut holes out for these. Why would you do that? Well, here's the thing. When you're looking with binoculars, you often look at the thing and pull up your binoculars. You don't want to do that with the sun. Remember that whole not looking at the sun thing? So what you do is you get a pizza box to shield the surroundings so that you can just look at the sun like this. And if you get bumped, you don't have to worry about staring into the sun. Or if something happens, I don't know. But that is very good, especially for kids, right? Because kids will get bumped or move or whatever, and then they'd be staring at the sun. So the pizza box creates a nice shield for that. Okay? Bonus points if you get a pair of those binoculars and you put them on a tripod, right? Because holding binoculars is very unsteady. Tripod keeps it nice and steady. Bonus points if you get one of those trapezoidal types of tripods where you can actually set it up so that the binoculars are looking at the sun, and then you can just raise it up for somebody who's taller, drop it down for someone who's shorter, and it will still keep the sun in the line of sight. It's really, really cool. Now, last type of observing is the telescopes, right? Now, if you have a telescope and you want to use it for the eclipse, go look up stuff kind of specific for your telescope, okay? Because refractors, reflectors, they have different methods and different important things, okay? But the easiest part with a telescope is to buy a solar filter like this, okay? Now, the solar filter, what that does is you can see it's basically a mirror, right? And what it does is it reflects 99% of the sun's light. It goes on nice and easily. It's got these little things that will trap it in there, kind of solidify it in there. And this is very much worth the money because you can do this with other times as well. Very clear, up-close views of the sun. The last thing is there are ways to project the sun through a telescope onto a piece of paper. Now, I'm going to warn you that you need to do very good research as far as figuring out how to do that. Because I have done that before and kind of melted the inside of an eyepiece. So you might want to just be careful with that. The reason is because when you do that, you actually don't put a filter on the front of your telescope. What you end up doing is you let all the sunlight in and it goes through and you project it out. It can be dangerous. Okay. So you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. Do it safely. Find somebody who's done it before and make sure you do whatever they did as well. So there you go. You've got telescopes. You can do binoculars. You can do just something as simple as a pair of eclipse glasses. So that's how you can watch this thing on your own. Now I'm a bit more introverted during big events, but I also know there are people who like to experience these types of things with a lot of people around them. Okay. Now look around, look on Facebook, look at local science centers. There's probably going to be other cool people around you who want to see this as well. So try to find some events. They're going to be out there. Now, one of the things you can do is find a place that will also be broadcasting the eclipse, because if it's cloudy in your area, you can still see the eclipse, right? Like if it were me and if I was at like the North Museum or something, I would probably do something where we have telescopes and stuff to view it outside and watch the partial eclipse while we're out there. But then inside, I would have a projection of the eclipse happening from a place that's in totality, right? So that you can still witness that, not in person, but as close as you can to it. Okay. Also, there's going to be plenty of websites live streaming this sort of thing. Find a good one. NASA usually has one that's well produced. But there are plenty of people out there who will be live streaming it. Not me. I don't quite have that capability yet, but it's out there. So you can just watch it sitting on the couch. Last thing here. Common question is, well, I can just see this in another 7 years, right? Like the last one was 7 years ago. We'll get another one in 7 years. No. That's not how it works. There's a complicated pattern thing called the Saros cycle or something like that. I'm not going to get into that. But the next one that's going to cross America, the next total solar eclipse to cross America, is August 12th of 2045. So we have another 21 years until that happens. So if you're going to see it, go out there and see it now. So that is the sky for April 8th of 2024 in Lancaster County for the total solar eclipse, partial for us. And if you find this advance notice of the eclipse helpful, please support this work by finding Last Minute Astronomer on Patreon. And also, please don't forget to follow Last Minute Astronomer on Facebook and Instagram. I'll be posting some little eclipse prep things that I'm doing, something that you might be able to do at home with your cameras, or telescopes and stuff like that. Till next time, I'm the Last Minute Astronomer, wishing you fruitful plans and clear skies. Music was produced by Deep Sky Dude and used with permission.